Welcome back to the Humble Throne, where leadership isn't a performance, it's a relationship. I'm Todd Robatin, and this is episode 9, Accountability Without Intimidation. Because holding people to a standard shouldn't mean holding them in fear. Today, we'll talk about how we lead with both strength and softness, how we build cultures of excellence without breeding anxiety, and how humility isn't the opposite of accountability, it's the foundation of it. Let's be honest, most leaders struggle with accountability. They either swing way too hard using control, guilt, and tension, or they swing way too soft, avoiding conflict and settling for underperformance at every turn. But what if there's a third way? What if humble leadership could enforce accountability with clarity, not coercion? Because accountability isn't about punishment, it's about alignment. It's about helping people return to their best, not reminding them of their worst. Here's what accountability with intimidation sounds like: You messed up again. Don't disappoint me. Fix this fast. There's a lot of tension there. But here's what accountability with humility sounds like. Let's walk through what happened. I believe you can do better, and I'll help if you want. What's your plan to move forward with integrity on this one? You see, it's the same expectation, but there's a very distinct difference in emotional climate. In accountability with humility, respect stays in the conversation, while shame exits the building. And when people feel safe, they don't just admit mistakes, they learn from them, and they're willing to take on the support to change their actions. A department head I worked with had a brilliant employee whose work just started slipping. They were late on deadlines. Their work quality was becoming lower and lower, and the tension in the office just continued to grow. People were gossiping behind their back. They didn't want to address the issue, but they knew that something was wrong. But this department head, rather than just issue a reprimand, they scheduled a quiet one on one and said to the employee, I've noticed a change. Are you okay? How can we kind of reset some things and get back on the right track? And that conversation unlocked a treasure trove of transparency that the leader was not ready to hear, but had to. Turns out the employee was burnt out and overwhelmed beyond measure. But with support and structure, not threats, they started to turn things around and the entire dynamic changed. Because accountability, everybody always thinks it has to be this demanding factor. You have to hit your deadline. You have to hit your budget. You have to do all of these things. But accountability doesn't mean removing the empathy component, but it does mean guiding people back to their excellence, back to their full potential, and what you know as a leader they can accomplish with the right support and respect in place. And here's the result: the employee in this situation didn't just improve and get back on track, they became a culture builder. Someone that instead of being gossiped about at the water cooler, in the break room, or after hours on social media, they became the person that was lifting everyone else up because they felt seen, heard, understood, respected, and not shamed. Here's the paradox of the whole thing: people perform better when they're respected, not rattled. Fear might get you compliance in the short term, but it rarely gets you sustainable excellence. And the humble leader holds the line on accountability, but at the same time holds space too for transparency, vulnerability, and care. Here are your humble truths for this week. Number one, clear expectations are greater than vague threats. People don't fear clarity. In fact, they crave it. When you name the standard, you actually empower people to meet it. Number two, support strengthens accountability. Accountability without support feels like a punishment, even when it's not meant to be. But when people know you're in it with them, they rise to the occasion. And number three, compassion is the foundation of high standards. You can be kind and still be firm. You can be empathetic and still expect excellence. They're not happening at different times, they can happen at the same time. Now let those settle. Because again, these truths aren't just ideas, they're invitations for both reflection and action. So here's a practical way to apply this week in what we'll call the accountability reset. Before your next feedback conversation, ask yourself, what's the standard I need to reinforce? What support can I offer to help them meet that standard? And how can I communicate this with clarity and care? And then when you speak, when you communicate that clearly, lead with presence, not pressure. Ask yourself, where did I need to hold someone accountable without adding pressure or shame? And what would it look like to lead that moment with empathy and not ego? And then say, when you enter that conversation, I want to revisit expectations, not because I'm disappointed, but because I believe in your potential and I want to help you get there. That one sentence, that one request can change the entire tone of the conversation. Instead of the person feeling isolated and attacked, putting up their defenses, they lay down their guard, open up with trust and vulnerability, and clearly collaborate a plan to move forward and revamp their part on your team. Next week, we'll challenge surface level leadership and examine the emotional undercurrents shaping modern teams. But for now, lead firmly, speak respectfully, and hold accountability with humility. Thanks for pulling up a seat and sitting with me today on the humble throne.